I thought I should look different because it's think different. So this is how I dress when I go to the Arctic and do my race. And this is the exact equipment that I actually bring along to complete that very tedious and tough journey that brought tears to my eyes. I'm Poh Joo. I'm happy to share my Arctic experience. And it was exactly 10 years ago that I woke up in the middle of the night thinking, what should I do with my life? So I think about it, and I thought maybe I should challenge myself. So I came across this interesting quote from the famous British novelist, C.S. Lewis, and he said, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." So I was looking at this quote, and one thing that struck out quite clearly was hardship. So of course I start to reflect, what is hardship? And you read about people who have gone through hardships. I'm sure you're familiar with Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in a jail before he became the first black elected president for South Africa. I'm sure the journey for that 27 years was not easy for him. So I read about him, and I enjoyed the book that he wrote, The Long Walk to Freedom. And it chronicles the entire journey that he has before he became where he was before. And then, recently I tried to be young, so I started to listen to young songs. And I came across this young artist, Ed Sheeran. I'm sure a lot of people are very familiar. For me, I think she's too young for me. But nevertheless, he spent many years as a homeless teenager before he became a successful singer, songwriter, where the whole world sings and listens to his songs. And I'm quite impressed because as he was young, he was being bullied because of his speech issues, and he grew up become such a popular artist. So of course, this brought back to my topic again, about hardship. So I was thinking, how to instill hardship, and what is hardship? So I came up with 3 ideas. First, hardship is to get out of my comfort zone. This is what I want to do, just get out and experience. And of course, when you get out of comfort zone, what do you want to do? So the second point, I thought maybe I should put myself through a physical hardship, because that's really what all of us are not comfortable to do. And lastly is to test my mental limit. So I was just reflecting hardship and these 3 points that I gave to myself, and I asked, then what is activity I should do to achieve this? So I decided to do all my Arctic races and all my ultra races. So I started in 2008, my first race in the desert. That's in Chile, Acadama. So I woke up and said, okay, let's do something crazy. And I flew all the way, the furthest desert I can find, to Chile, and then I competed in this race. It's a 250-kilometer race, and you have to complete within 7 days. So that means you have to run a marathon every day. So I ranked 32 out of 73. My first time, I was quite proud, pretty accomplished. I was happy with the results. And of course, in a hot desert race, temperature typically above 40 degrees Celsius. And I asked myself, okay, you have done a hot race, why not try the cold one? So subsequently, if you look at the race that I've done, I decided to try the extreme, which I went to Yukon up in Canada, where temperature typically drops below minus 30 degrees Celsius. So I'd done 1 Arctic races in 2010, I did another one in 2011, and I tried to go back to the desert race in 2012, and lastly, another Arctic race in 2014 in the Lapland. But unfortunately, in the last 4 races, I've been failing. It's not a good experience. I thought I was good, I was physically fit, but unfortunately, the last 4 races, I just couldn't complete. My mental strength was not as strong as I thought. So a lot of self-reflections that I went through, actually a lot of friends were laughing at me and say, you spent so much money, you flew all the way to all this country, and you gained nothing of it. So there was a lot of disappointment in myself, to the point that I was very hesitant to put out my race in a Facebook, because I don't want to put out on Facebook, people congratulate, oh, well done, PJ, good luck, and at the end, you didn't complete, and you feel bad about it. So there are a lot of ego issues that I have to go through, a lot of frustrations, until 2 years ago. That was when I got married, and my wife was nudging me, say, you always wanted to do a race, why not do it now before we start the whole family planning? So with her encouragement, in 2016, I decided to try yet another Arctic race up in the Yukon in Canada. It's called the 6633 Arctic Ultra. So with that, I thought maybe besides doing a race, let me do some charity as well. So I decided to fundraise for 2 different charities. First is the SD School Pocket Money Fund, and the other is the Northlight School. So why these 2 charities? So for the Pocket Money Fund, it somehow resonates in me because I grew up in a very humble family when I was young. I have experience going to school without pocket money. So I could imagine how these kids nowadays, where we are so affluent, would have faced if they go to school without pocket money. And I do have friends who are teachers, and they did share with me that this pocket money fund really reaches out to the last student in the class. So I thought it was a worthy cause, and I decided to fundraise for 50,000. That was my target that I set. And then for Northlight School, because I work for Changi Airport Group, this is our beneficiary. And I thought, yeah, I could reach out to my colleagues as well. So I set a target, 30,000. Hopefully, my colleagues can come on board and raise this amount. So with these two challenges in mind, so one is my Arctic race and the other is the fundraising target, I flew to Canada again, and I met 12 different other athletes who are very accomplished. Some of them have done co-races, some of them are ultra races that actually race around the world, over the last 2 to 3 years. So I met them. They're all Americans. They're all Europeans and Angmos. I'm the only Asian, only Singaporean. But I decided, yeah, let's do the best. I'm not there to compete against them. I'm there to compete against myself. So that's what I set my target to do. So what is this 6633 Arctic Ultra? It's actually a non-stop self-sufficient food race. So basically, you can walk or you can run. But typically, I walk because I can't run with the sled behind me. Okay, so that's the distance that I have to cover, 566 kilometers, and I have to do it within 7 days. So that's a challenge that we have to do. It's non-stop because from the start of the race to the end of the race, you plan how you want to race it. If you want to walk for the first 3 days and rest for the next 2 days, it's all entirely up to you. And it has to be self-sufficient because you have to look after yourself. You have to make sure you have enough food to eat. Nobody's going to feed you. Nobody's going to let you have any water to drink. So everything you have to plan on your own. And then what is 566 kilometers? So just to give you a bit of reference, it's if I pull out the direct bearing from Singapore, you got actually very close to Penang. So that's the distance that we have to cover within 7 days. Right, so like I said, we have to be self-sufficient, and this is one of the conditions that we have to put up with, which is the cold wind, and the temperature, like I said, it's minus 30, 40 degrees Celsius. So imagine pitching a tent is not easy, but you have to do it in a cold with your huge gloves and mitts. It's not an easy task. So a lot of planning is required to go into just setting up a tent. So I spent a lot of effort doing my training in Singapore. I was learning how to pitch my tent, and I did it actually within less than 1 minute. So that's the speed that I've trained myself to do that. When it comes to food, I have to plan what I want to eat. It looks scrumptious, but actually I curate very carefully what I need to eat and what I have to eat. And on average, for a man like me, I need to burn about 2,500 calories, or rather, I need to feed myself 2,500 calories. But for a race like this, you need at least 6,000 to 7,000. And where do I get so much food? And I have to carry them with me. So a lot of planning goes into it, and I found actually interesting food from Japan that allows me to freeze-dry it, pour hot water, I get green curry, I get rice out from my food. So I actually went in a lot of study on how to eat well. Of course, before I sleep at night, every night, I will cook a big meal, a hot meal, so that I can eat and have good energy to prepare me for the next day. So water is not easy to come by. At times, I need to go out to the snow. I have to dig deep into the snow, and I have to melt the snow to drink it, so that I have enough fluid to carry me through the entire journey. So all in all, I need to pull a sled, and this sled is about 27 kilograms. Okay. Of course, within this sled, I have my stove to cook, I have my tent, my spec, change of clothes, my sleeping bag, and I only managed to carry 4 liters of water. Okay, and of course, if you expand for too long, actually all these waters can freeze in that cold. So this is how I look like generally in the entire race. I'm all covered up from head to toe, and you have to do that because in minus 30, 40 degrees temperature, frostbite is actually a very high risk to any of the athletes. So I had experienced a little bit of frostbite. So this is me with the nose injury that I have sustained in the race because I actually exposed myself too much to the wind without covering my nose, and that's what happened if I don't do that. And the other conditions which I suffered was actually windburn. It's cold, it's dry, and of course with even all your gears, I've actually have 3 layers of pants. The wind still cut through the apparels, and they actually cause little wounds on your skin. And it was especially painful if you jump into the shower after the race, because it's all little wounds around you. So it's not easy when you race it. I had a little bit easier compared to some of the athletes that I met. So I have this guy who has very bad blisters, and this can actually force people to get out of the race. Okay, it's really painful to walk in that kind of conditions, especially at minus 30, 40 degrees Celsius. And not forgetting, we have to cover at least 80, 90 kilometers per day. So there are other worse cases, someone with a bloody toe, someone with a cold injury that actually causes the entire face to swell. So these are not easy races to overcome. And in the next picture, it's going to be a little bit more disgusting. Potential frostbites can actually can potentially make anyone lose their limbs. And this is one high risk that all of us have to go through. So you can imagine all the planning that you need so that you don't injure yourself, yet you achieve your target. Of course, the terrains are beautiful. I really enjoy up in the Yukon, beautiful scenery. And this picture was taken when I was doing my big dump. Imagine you have to pull down your pants and do your big business at minus 30, 40 degrees Celsius temperature. And I remember there was one day I did it when the wind was so strong. So it was so strong that I asked the organizer how strong it was. They said the wind could have been easily 90 kilometers per hour wind. So imagine I have to pull down my pants, do my business quickly, and get it on and off the road again. So I've done it not just once, I've done it 5 different times in different parts of Yukon so that I can release myself in order to continue the race. There are mountainous roads that we have to go through. It's not easy, especially there's a steep climb, 4-kilometer continuous, 30, 40 degrees upslope. So that was not an easy climb. Of course, there's another part of the road which I thought was beautiful. It looks nice on the picture, but it was really cold and strong wind when you actually walk through the ice road. And the ice road doesn't exist in the summer. It's only in the winter when the entire place freezes and lakes and rivers becomes ice, and that's when we actually walk on them. And it's a bit of a surreal experience because as you walk and trek on the ice road, the ice actually cracks underneath your feet. It can be a bit scary, but when you're all alone and with all this serenity, I thought it was a very surreal experience that I really enjoy. Of course, racing to the finish line was something I never have done. I never have done it before. I shared earlier, I failed 4 races, and 2 years ago, racing to the finish line was something I was really proud of. And not just that, I was actually racing with the winner. So TB, he was racing next to me, and we were actually on our way to the finishing line. And I actually caught up with him after 5 days, and we were about 100 kilometers from the finishing line. So I also noticed TB is actually getting tired with the race. I think he came down with a very bad knee injury, and he was walking and limping. And I thought maybe I should help him at some point, which I did. Of course, there was this potential chance that I can actually walk ahead of him and win the race, but I thought it's not right because I could really see him suffering, and he was really popping Panadol or painkillers every 2 to 3 hours, which I thought was bad for his health. So at times, I asked him, if you're tired, just let me know. I will just stop, and then I'll pitch a tent, and we can sleep together. For TB, he did not have a tent with him, so I thought it was not right to just leave him up in the cold. So there were 2 occasions we actually put out my tent, and we had a good rest. And 37 kilometers before the finishing, TB being stronger and taller, he asked me, PJ, come, let's run into the finishing line. I said, I can't run, but if you're stronger, please go ahead. And then he did, so he ran, and I came in second, just 56 minutes after him. Like I said, when I started off the race not wanting to compete, I'm there just to challenge myself to do this race. So I was really proud. I was really literally crying. I was hugging the organizer and say, I've finally done this race. I was, of course, very, very proud of myself. And what was more encouragement was actually the fundraising that I've done. So at the end of the trip, I Googled, and I actually went to check the status of the fundraising. I was quite proud to say that I actually raised about $100,000 for the 2 charities. So something I thought it was really amazing. Of course, what is the value of hardship? So to me, these are the 3 points which I would like to share with all of you, hoping that you can take away with this talk. So first is to build resiliencies. So hardship is important because it helps to build the character and make you strong. And for any adversities that you have in future, you are able to overcome it. Next, with hardship, you learn about your strength, and you learn about your weaknesses. And lastly, with hardship, it instills your personal discipline. To get to this race is not easy, but to train for this race is even harder. I can't simulate the cold temperature because we are in Singapore. It's not easy to actually go to a cold country. I can't spend so much time and effort and even resources just to go abroad and do training. So I spend all my training in Singapore. I'll wake up at 5 in the morning. I go for long walks on weekends. The walk could range from 15 to 18 hours. And I did it, of course, through all my weekends. On a weekday morning, I wake up about 4 a.m. I'll do up and down the slopes with all my sled and equipment just to train for yourself. So this actually allows me to instill personal discipline. So this is the value which I thought hardship can bring. And of course, one key lesson that I've learned is to embrace failures and learn from them. I failed 4 times. I was dejected. I was upset. I felt that I'm a loser. But I overcame that thought, and I decided if I continue to feel that way, I will never achieve anything. So I learned from all the failures. I should pull out all the notes that I have, why I failed. And I like to do self-reflection. I wrote down all the things that I've done right and the things I've done wrong. And I learned from them. And that's, I guess, one of the key reasons why I was able to complete the race 2 years ago was actually from all these failures that I've learned. So there's something which I thought was really one of the key lessons that I've learned in this entire journey. And lastly, as part of the parting words, be bold. I'd like to encourage all of you, do not be afraid to take hardships. We are all creatures of comfort, but when there's hardship, we tend to shy away from it. My encouragement to all of you is do not. If you can't learn how to swim, or if you don't know how to swim, or you're afraid of water, tomorrow, jump into the pool. Just swim for 2 laps. You feel good after that. If you can't run for any reasons, go and start running tomorrow. If you can't hop onto the bike, you can't cycle, try that tomorrow. Don't be afraid, okay? There is a hardship involved, but you need to overcome it. So you need to be bold about it. And secondly, and lastly, think different. Do something crazy, okay? It's easy, to say that, I'll run a marathon. Of course, it's hard, but with that, there's so many people running marathons now. So how do you want to differentiate yourself? So think differently. So what I did was, the reason why I challenged myself and tried to do something really crazy coming from a tropical country is to go into the Arctic, to a temperature and climate that's totally different from where I'm used to. So that's what I do, and that's why I think will help with my personal development. So with that, I thank you.